Good afternoon, and welcome to the second podcast of the year. Come on, that needs a clap. Give that a clap, Alex. Second podcast of the year. We've actually got round to doing one within 2 weeks of making the first one. Anyway, so welcome to the second podcast where we look and review at the England test team. First test at Lords. A lot has happened since the last podcast. I think we did that over a week ago, but a lot has happened, and mainly being the first test between England and New Zealand at Lords. Alex, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, we came away with the win, but it was very nervy, especially in the batting department.
Yeah, great to come away with the win in the first game of the McCullum-Stokes era. I can't remember when the last time England won a test game was, and with the team that they've got, that shouldn't happen. But I think for the first time we can look back at a really entertaining 5 days and 5 days to remember. There were times where New Zealand thought they were going to win it. That Mitchell and Blundell partnership was superb. And there were times where England, of course, Root and Stokes once again to the rescue for England. They eventually went on to win it by 5 wickets. But for the neutral eye, what a game. As of recording, we're in day 3 of the second test. England are 200 for 2. So you'd have to imagine that it was a batting wicket. But at Lords, no, it was the opposite. 17 wickets fell on day 1. But yeah, for the neutral eye, it's been incredible. There's been ups and downs. But at the moment, thankfully, England are leading this series.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to talk about. I mean, Matt Potts' amazing debut. His figures 4 for 13 in the first innings and 3 for 18 in the second, both of which being the best of the bowlers, pick of the bowlers in both sides, really. Also, of course, Joe Root, what a player. Rid of the captain role, and he duly delivered. I think, can't remember what he got in the end, but over a century, and him and folks steered England to victory following quite a nervy opening start to the fourth innings. But yeah, overall amazing for the England test team, because I cannot remember the last time we beat New Zealand at home. I don't know if you can tell me, but we didn't last summer, and I don't think we did the summer before. So, it was definitely the first time in ages. Now, Alex, what I thought we could do was rank the players, rank the starting 11 from the Lord's Test. So, of course, the second test is going on at the moment at Trent Bridge. But from the first test, I think we should rank the players. How about you?
I think that's a great idea. So.
We are ranking the England test team from their performance at Lords in the first test. Zach Crawley, Alex, I've given him a 7. What have you given him?
Well, I've given him a bit higher than you, 7.5.
Now, the reason I gave Zach Crawley a 7 is because in the first innings, I think he got a well-made 43, but fell to the hands of Kane Williamson when he nicked it. He's clearly not in form at the moment. That's clear, because, him of 2020, when he first started getting introduced to the test team, he was getting hundreds left, right and centre. But yeah, he's looking a bit nervy when he's batting, and I don't think as a spectator you should feel the nerves when you're watching an opening batsman. So on both occasions, failed to really give England that boost that they need opening the batting. So that's why I've given him a solid 7 because of his well-made 43. But why have you given him a 7.5?
Well, England need to find 2 good openers. They've mixed and matched recently. They've played Hamid for a bit. There's quite a good few county openers that I'm sure will want a chance in the test team. But 43, it was a difficult first innings for England. They had that collapse late on day 1. I remember watching that thinking, what's going on? So 43, only in 56 balls, he had the highest strike rate in the England team by far in that top order. Good timing too, which was good for a difficult wicket. In the second innings, it was one to forget about. But I agree with your point. You look at England's best few openers over the last few years. Someone who comes to mind, Alistair Cook, equalled Joe Root for most amount of runs now. But Alistair Cook, he was always calm, always looked like he knew what he was doing. maybe even when he was being beaten, when the ball was moving about. But he always just looked like he knew what he was doing. I think we'll have to wait for the rest of this series to see whether that's good for him or not. Of course, he got out-edged, which kind of shows that, yes, he really does like to play outside off. But overall, 43 is always an all right innings, especially when the team only gets 141. So, yeah, that's why I gave him 7.5.
Well, we move to the other England opener, being Alex Lees, of course, introduced to the England Test side in their away tour in the West Indies. I've given him a 6.5. Both occasions, I think he got 21 and 23. You know, I'm just kind of fed up of opening batsmen just not getting the scores that they want and kind of putting Ollie Pope at number 3 and Joe Root at number 4 under a lot of pressure. As you said in the last podcast, you know, the opening batsmen need to give England that rock, that, you know, good opening start to kind of take the pressure off number 3 and number 4 when they come in, because then it makes, you know, life in the Test team a lot easier. So yeah, Alex Lees 21 and 23. As we're talking, he's just got out. I think he nicked it, but for a well-made 67. So he got his half century, his highest score in Test cricket for England so far. But we're not talking about the second Test; we're talking about the first. And yeah, Alex, I've given him a 6.5. What have you given him?
Yeah, like pretty much agree with that. A bit lower. I gave him 6. Now, we saw him at Lord's in his last game before the Test, in which he got a duck. So back at Lord's,
I remember.
He got 25 and 20 in the end. So similar scores. But he did all right, of course. He got out LBW. There's been quite a lot of criticism for his style. Of course, he walks quite far across the wicket. But overall, I think he's done well. Not really talking about the second Test, but he has made a name for himself. But I think in the end, he'll take it. In the end, England did get that win, and he did pretty much average. There's a lot to come from Lees. I feel like that's not him at his best, but yeah, there's a lot to come from him.
But Alex, you say, sorry to interrupt, but you say average. It's not good for an opening batsman to get a score like that. The opening batsman ideally should be, you know, at the top end of the quality of batsmen in the team. So you say average, but like really, like early 20s, it's not enough.
That's kind of like 25 is average for an England opener. But if you look at Latham and Young, of course, they also struggle. But in overall, 25 isn't enough for Lees. That's good for him. But England definitely are in need of an opener that can get 60 or 70. Joe Root, who comes in at 3 and 4, he's only come in his last 45 appearances. I think in only 3 or 4 of them, England have had 100 plus. So England definitely need to improve their openers.
Wow. Enough said about Lees. We move on to Ollie Pope. And Alex, this is really hard because his game against New Zealand at Lord's was not good, to say the least. It was really bad. But as we're currently speaking at Trent Bridge, I think Ollie Pope, let's just see what he's on. He's nearing his century, Alex.
84.
So it's hard to talk about him in the Lord's Test. But anyway, we will. Yeah, not good from Ollie Pope. England kind of put him in the number 3 role, which was slightly new to him, playing in that role for Surrey. But for England previously, he had been, you know, 6, 7, 5, around that area. So to be suddenly boosted up to number 3, it's quite a big ask from Ben Stokes, but it shows his trust in Ollie Pope, and he's a really good batter, Alex. But he kind of struggled with form at Lord's. It's safe to say, I think scores of 6 and 9, really not up to par for a number 3 batter. So I've given him a 5, Alex, the lowest score in the team I've given to Ollie Pope. But yeah, so I've given Pope a 5. What have you given him?
Well, originally I gave him the second lowest score, but unfortunately later on, I'll talk about it, I increased another player's score, so he is now the lowest. But as I said, 84 not out. He's right now improving that he can do it, but all the batters struggled. New Zealand's number 3, Kane Williamson, the captain, a proven number 3. He knows exactly what he's doing. He only got 2 runs in the first innings and 15 runs in the second. So clearly it was a difficult wicket, and Ollie Pope can do it. When you've been promoted in the order, 7 and 10 just isn't good enough for him. I'm sure he'll personally feel disappointed with how he did. And unfortunately, it just didn't work out for him. But he's the sort of player with a shot selection, and you want to do well. He bats aggressively, but not overly aggressively that he's throwing away stupid wickets. But overall, I like him as a batsman. I'd like to see him do well. This just wasn't one for him to remember, unfortunately, at Lords.
We move on to the one and only Joe Rooooooot. 9 from me, Alex. What a display it was by Root. Of course, I believe he got 11 in his first innings, but he made up with that by getting well over a century in the second innings and steering England to victory. A very nervy victory as well. But Joe Root, what a player. He is now free of his captain role. So hopefully, Alex, we can see much more of performances like these from Root. Because he's free of the stress of being a captain, and we saw it, like the weight lifted off his shoulders. He can now do what he wants to do with batting, not really with the team in mind, and captaining the team as well. So what a performance we saw from Root. He's definitely in like the top 3 batsmen in the world at the moment, and what we saw from him last summer, I really want this to continue, because when Root is in form, he is a masterpiece. What are your thoughts?
Well, we spoke about England's openers. For the last few years, he's always had to come in with his team struggling. He's always had to balance out the captaincy. He's always had to make decisions, but he's kind of just got that ability now to not desert the team, but to have that freedom to occasionally just forget to show what he can do. As a batter, that's key. The question is, how much will it affect Stokes? Now being the captain, I think it's underrated how hard it is to be a captain. But Joe Root, disappointing 11, but that second innings, 115, and he got that 115 in a very, very difficult situation. When he came in with Stokes, it was looking like New Zealand were going to win the game. He carried them with Stokes, and when Stokes got out and Folkes came in, the game was 50-50. And in the end, he took England to the finishing line. But Joe Root, no word said, once again, one of the top 3 batsmen in the world. And he was definitely in that first innings not at his best, but still a solid 9 for him.
We move on to Johnny Bairstow, Alex. And, well, I like him as a player, but his form definitely wasn't there. I gave him a 6 for his performances at Lords. Of course, getting 1 in the first innings and 15 in the second. He looked good while at the crease, it's safe to say, especially in the second innings. He's playing some nice shots, but he was too attacking. He's just come from the IPL when he's been earning, big money. And he's come to Lords to play for the England Test team, and he's kind of gone a bit too attacking. He was quite rushed, and he kind of wanted to just pile on the runs for England, but it didn't really work. And he was caught too attacking. It's safe to say. So I've given him a 6 because scores of 1 and 15 really not good for a caliber of a player like Johnny Bairstow. What did you give him?
So Johnny Bairstow, an interesting one for me. I said with Ollie Pope originally he was second lowest. Now he is the lowest. Now originally I gave him a 4, and that was because he got a 1, and in the second innings he got 16. But the way he got out, he chopped one onto his stumps, as you said, going so aggressive. But then you look at his catches, he made two really good catches to take the New Zealand top order. I ranked him up to a 5, making him the second lowest, with Pope lower. But as you said, he's been in the IPL. He's used to that aggressive shots. And you look at the English scheduling, it's all white ball, all Vitality Blast. And then there's just a 4-day game in the middle of... It's not helping the development of players such as Bairstow by making them play in these events where they need to hit big runs, big shots, and then putting them in on a difficult wicket for England. But right, in the end of 5, he's an interesting player with a lot to talk about, yeah.
Yeah, you're definitely right there. It mucks up form, and you can see why. I mean, we'll get onto this later, and the weirdness of it. Of course, county championship, vitality blast, kind of intertwining with each other. But yeah. So, what did you give Johnny Bairstow again, Alex?
In the end, I gave Pope 4.5 and Bairstow I gave 5. So there you go.
Yeah, because he was playing some nice shots, but yeah, definitely too attacking. That's why I've given him a 6. We move on.
Get on to
Well, to the England Test captain, Alex, and the person we got a photo with 3 weeks ago, Ben Stokes. Um, he got a nice 50 in the second innings, safe to say, but was far too attacking. And he showed this when he chopped the ball onto his stumps, a bit like Johnny Bairstow, off the bowling of Colin de Grandhomme, constantly running down the wicket and going for these big shots. He wasn't out because I think de Grandhomme overstepped the mark and it was a no ball. But yeah, I've given Ben Stokes a 7.5 because even despite his 50, he didn't really help keep England in the game because he got out. But yeah, far too attacking. I think he hit 3 sixes off the bowling of Amish Patel. But yeah, this is a test match, and I think to a certain extent we saw at Headingley. There is room for those big shots, but when it's early June and the pitch is still, it nips on a bit because it's quite soft and there's a lot of swing. To really go attacking isn't the best option. And Ben Stokes in his first innings was out for 1. So, even though he captained the side that beat New Zealand, his individual performance mediocre.
Yep, I've ended up giving Ben Stokes a 7. As you said, a key moment in the game, probably if it was out, New Zealand would have won, was when de Grandhomme overstepped that mark. If Ben Stokes had been out here, we would be both sitting here saying, what has the captaincy done to Joe? What has the captaincy done to Ben Stokes?
Yeah.
He's got out for short both. Is he going to turn into Joe Root and just have that pressure? But he got that second bit of luck. I've given him a 7. Another one similar to the England openers. There's a lot more to come from them if they can just make their name. But I think he'll take that in the end. Got his half century, 110 balls. He really targeted the spinner of Patel. But at the end of 7, Jan, and hopefully, he's coming into bat soon today. So hopefully he can do well then. But yeah, a 7 for Ben Stokes.
We move on to Ben Foakes. Similar names or different roles. Ben Foakes, the England wicketkeeper, I gave him an 8 because, even though his run rate and scores weren't that high, he was, I think, 36 not out in the second innings when he helped Joe Root and he helped England beat New Zealand. So that's why I've given him an 8 because he kept us in the game, Alex. With classic test batting, keeping the ball on the ground, the occasional kind of 4, but overall, just keep that ball on the ground, defend it. There's no point in getting out, and he showed that. So that's why I've given him an 8. What are your thoughts on him?
Well, I've given him an 8.5. I think he's one of the most underrated players in this England team. I thought he was exceptional. I was really impressed to see him. Of course, first innings went out for 7. He kept superbly, took a few catches, but when he came in the second innings, there are a few Foakes, Potts. This is a bit of an inexperienced England tail as well. Are they going to be able to get England over the line? I spoke to a few fans at the end, I think it was day 4, and we needed about 30 runs with 4 or 5 wickets, I think 5, and they were still pessimistic, 30 runs with 4 wickets is tough, but Foakes, risk-free batting, never really looked like getting out. Gosh, 23 extras. I've just seen that on the scorecard. New Zealand gave England.
I'm sorry to interrupt you quickly, but you said never looked like he could get out. He's one of the only batsmen in the England side, him, Joe Root, that they have a certainness about them not to get out. You can see it, and you don't feel like they're going to get out when they face the balls. But with most batsmen in the England side, you kind of have that nervousness because they might nick it or they might play a stupid shot. But yeah, Ben Folkes and Joe Root definitely kind of showed that, we're here at the crease and we're going to stay here for as long as we can and not get out. Anyway, yeah, continue.
And yeah, I agree. He wasn't like one of those sort of batsmen that gets 10 off 100 deliveries. He did hit the odd ball for 4, but when he decided to swing his bat, he hit it where the fielders wasn't. They were controlled shots and they went on the ground. For Ben Stokes, his natural game, we saw it. He played the same way against New Zealand in that World Cup game as he did when he started hitting those big shots. Spinners, hit Lyon, he hit Patel for 3 sixes. That's his natural game. But when Ben Stokes bats, you have that confidence of knowing what he can do.
Moving on to Matt Potts, Alex, and what a bowler. On his debut, he got figures of 4 for 13, which just for 13 runs, he kept the score down so low. And it was a brilliant opening start for both England, or for the 3 England bowlers, fast bowlers, being Matt Potts, Stuart Broad and Jimmy Anderson. But Matt Potts, great debut for him. So as a fast bowler myself, Alex, it was really nice to see, Matt Potts being introduced to the England side and, delivering. So I've given him a 9. Got out for a duck in batting, but who really cares about batting? We've got a really, really bright young prospect on the line here, and potentially one to stay in the England Test team. What are your thoughts on Matt Potts?
Well, is he the future of bowling for England? He was bowling with Stuart Broad and James Anderson, 2 of England's best bowlers and arguably ever, and he didn't look out of place at all. He, in fact, was one of the best bowlers there. He took 4 wickets, of course, for the 13 runs, and running in to bowl your first delivery ever for the England team, you've got to be feeling some nerves, but he just got settled in. He took a wicket in that first over. He took Kane Williamson, and it was superb. Only going in at economy of 1.39, so not expensive. And he took the wickets, 3 wickets as well, for 55 runs in the second innings. So he took 7 wickets in the end for just 68 runs, which is truly an achievement. And you talk about Broad and Anderson, they're quite old between them, so it would be nice to see the future of England cricket. And a lot of English quick bowlers are going through injuries at the moment. There's been a lot of criticism of them over bowling, but yeah, with Potts, there's a bright future. Talk about him in terms of batting. He did get the duck, and I was watching when he got out. I remember the delivery by Trent Boult. He bounced Potts out the game. It came off his glove in the end. It was a really short bouncer. And I think when you have experience, 2 or 3 tests, 10 tests maybe, a season or 2, you'll know how to play those. But it was a really good ball by Boult that got him out. And in the end, I've rated him 9.5, the highest in the England team. It was really, that first morning, it was really fun watching him and Anderson make the ball swing and trouble New Zealand's opening batters.
We'll move on to Stuart Broad. Mediocre, Alex, I think is safe to say from Stuart Broad. Of course, he got the crowd riled up and he produced that team hat-trick, which was a brilliant moment for England Test cricket. And it was a brilliant moment in Lords as well. But apart from that, not brilliant, Alex, it is safe to say. He's not a swinger of full Stuart Broad. He's more a cutter. So, and when the kind of cutters weren't really working, there's nothing really to resort to for Stuart Broad. So I kind of felt like he was that bit too much expensive in the game. He failing to produce a swing, unlike Jimmy Anderson and Matt Potts and Ben Stokes. So I felt like it's kind of dragging on a bit. Figures backs it up as well. I can't see them, but so he was quite expensive, just serving the ball up on a platter through good lengths and bounces almost for the New Zealand batsman to just pull away, and I think that was a reoccurring theme at Lords. So I've given Stuart Broad a 7. Alex, what have you given?
Slightly higher. I've rated him 7.5 in the end, but wasn't his when you think about the England bowling attack, you think of players like Anderson swinging the ball in and taking off that top of off he's slightly quicker, but he does get that less spin. In the first innings, he got, how many wickets did he get? He got 1 wicket, went for 45 runs. I guess there is that argument that he was bowling outside off, tempting the batsman into hitting it. And you look at these bowlers, if you can ask them to bowl on a specific length, you can put a coin there. They'll hit that coin every single time. But with the bat, he got 9, so not really too fussed about how a bowler does with the bat. And in that second innings, it was an improvement, joint with Potts as the highest wicket taker. 26 overs, 3 wickets, 76 runs, so slightly less expensive in that innings. But in the first innings for New Zealand, when Jameson, Southey, Bolt, Patel and the New Zealand tail came out, they really did get quite a few runs off him. But not too bad, not great by Broad, 7.5, Jan. And over to you for Anderson.
We move on to Jimmy Anderson, the swing king, whatever you'd like to call him, aged 39 and counting, turns 40 on the 30th of July this year. Alex, he is still one of England's best bowlers at the moment. In fact, he's probably their best bowler. Whenever he wants up to bowl, there's always that threat that he carries. You know, when he bowls that outswing that just nips along, nips away from the batter, so tempting, and you can see it for the batsman, and that's why he gets so many wickets through nicks. And so I've given Jimmy Anderson an 8. Figures were okay, but it's just the threat and that opening pair with Broad to begin the game for the England bowlers was just amazing. And I remember watching it, and I was just thinking, this guy, you know, he's turning 40, yet he's consistently serving the ball up for the batsman to, you know, nick to slip. So, yeah, a good display by Jimmy Anderson. Yet again, Alex, his form is relentless. He constantly finds his form every single game. And yeah, his bowling, when he's in top form, it's wonderful to look at. What are your thoughts on Jimmy?
I gave him 8.5. A tremendous bowler, gets so much swing. It's like you. It's horrible to face as a batsman. Now, we spoke about Crawley, Lees, how they needed to be like Alistair Cook and have that calmness at the crease. Is it possible to be calm against Anderson? If there's any batsman, Labuschagne, Smith, Williamson, that feels comfortable walking out to face Anderson with the new Duke's ball, making it swing, is pretty much lying, because it's almost impossible. Anderson, he bowled 4 overs, including 2 wicket maidens, and after those 4 overs in his opening spell, before they brought on Potts for his first over, where of course he took a wicket, his figures were no runs for the 2 wickets. So tremendous by him. In the second innings, took 2 wickets as well. So a solid, what did I give him? 8.5 for Anderson. And once again, England's best bowler at quite an old age now. This guy just doesn't stop. Always swings the ball, and a pleasure to watch, particularly in those overcast conditions with the new ball.
Yeah, well said about Jimmy. We move on to Matt Parkinson. Now, a difference to the original starting lineup, as Jack Leach was originally meant to start. However, following a fielding, he ran after the ball, and in an attempt to dive it, fell on his head really awkwardly. So he ended up having to be taken out due to concussion. That sent Matt Parkinson from his barbecue in his hometown of Manchester down the A4 and to Lords the following day to bat against Trent Boult, Kyle Jamieson and Tim Southey. So, yeah, Matt Parkinson, 6.5, of course, sprung into the game. He got 1 wicket, Alex, but his bowling, he was quite expensive. But I think generally for all spinners on that Lords pitch, it's just not the right conditions for spin. But, you know, Matt Parkinson, he did what he had to do. And, following Jack Leach's concussion, he came in first innings, I think 71 for no wicket were his figures. And then the second innings, 1 for 90, I think. But yeah, what were your thoughts on Matt Parkinson? 6.5 I've given him. But sprung into the game, for the first time in history, I believe, and at Lords, a concussion sub has had to be enforced. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Matt Parkinson?
As you said, I've rated him a 6. It must be an incredible story for his family. Just having a laugh, having a barbecue, and then all of a sudden Parkinson gets the call. Do you fancy coming down to Lords having a bowl? It's a shame about Leach. Delighted to have him back in for the second test. Of course, past the concussion protocol, but it's always difficult when you suddenly said, "Do you want to come and play for your national country?" 2-hour drive, and then you're here. He took the wicket in the end. He got the who did he get out? He got Tim Southey out, caught by Joe Root. So on 21, so that was a tremendous achievement for him. He did get hit quite a bit, but that was a really difficult wicket for a spin bowler. But I think it's all lost for him. He had a great game and fair play to him. I've given him a 6. Well done, Matt Parkinson.
Well done, Matt Parkinson. Well done, the team. As they ended up
Congratulations on your
beating
win.
New Zealand at Lords. Alex, they beat them by 5 wickets. It looks comfortable, but it really wasn't. It's so nervy because when Ben Folkes is out, you've got Matt Potts, Stuart Broad, Jimmy Anderson, Matt Parkinson. All of them, on a usual day without any injuries, you'd have Chris Wokes in there. You'd have, I was about to say Moeen Ali, but he's retired now. But yeah, you kind of have all rounders filling those spots. But yeah, so that brings an end to the England rankings, Alex. We'll wrap up shortly, but we're currently, I'll just look it up on the old BBC Sport.
195 for 2. Come on, Ollie. He's on
84.
Come on, Ollie Pope.
Yeah, come on, Ollie Pope. Root's on 35. Well, with that, Alex, it's a goodbye from me. Is there anything more you want to say?
Good luck to everyone at England for the second test. To Leach, just a quick thing. The fielding on the second test hasn't been great, but it's been good to talk to you, Jan. Reflect on an England win for the first time, and yeah, that's it from me.
Well, yeah, thank you for listening, and be free to give us a like, subscribe, because we're just a genuine cricket podcast for the fans and the fans only. So thank you, and it's a goodbye.